all of my life, I've never been Amanda first. Who am I if I'm not filling lunch accounts and running to football games? What does this look like for Amanda? And it was in that moment that the mindset shift happened that I'm me first. And just that one thing of introducing myself as Amanda, Nick and Nate's mom, does incredible things for your psyche. Incredible things.
Welcome to the Worthy Mother podcast, where we discuss all things identity, self-compassion, and fulfillment within and beyond motherhood. I'm Emily Rose Hardy, a mindset and self-love coach for moms. I am a firm believer that to be able to take care of our children, we must take care of ourselves first. This is not a parenting podcast. No, this is a podcast where we will challenge the societal expectations of what it means to be a mom, demystify the perfect mom myth, and learn to love ourselves. You are worthy, mama. Let's do this. Hi, it's Emily, and welcome to the Worthy Mother podcast. Thank you so much for being here. We are getting into identity today, which is one of the pillars of this podcast, and I have brought on a fantastic guest to just give us some insight on how we can ensure that our identities and our value don't get tied up in our roles and why it is so important that we make this effort. Joining us today is Amanda Torres. Amanda is an advocate for women's empowerment and personal growth. As an entrepreneur and former corporate professional, Amanda brings a wealth of experience to the table. Her passion lies in empowering women to recognize their value beyond titles and embrace their full potential. Amanda's journey as a mother of 2 children and 4 bonus children has given her unique insights into the challenges women face in various roles. Her dedication to helping women overcome obstacles and create purposeful lives is evident in her work as a speaker, mentor, and coach. Through her popular podcast, Becoming Amanda, Amanda shares personal stories, interviews with inspiring guests, and provides actionable advice to help listeners navigate their own transformative journeys. With her genuine and relatable approach, which you will see here today, she aims to create a supportive community where women can thrive together. So Amanda, I am so grateful to have you here today and welcome you onto the Worthy Mother podcast. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself?
Well, I am so thrilled to be here with you and your family on this corner of the internet also. So I did come from corporate America, and then I stepped into a very different role of being a preschool teacher because free daycare. And then I went into this big, huge span of time of being an entrepreneur and went back into the working force about 3 years ago and just quit that job in April to really step fully into being a motivational speaker, empowering women, getting on that speaking trail and going out and doing my part to share from my journey and the things that I've experienced, and hoping that somebody that is listening or sitting in an audience can pull from those nuggets and apply them to their lives and really go out there, because I truly believe we all have a purpose. And so if anybody can learn through my journey, I'm all for it. So I'm here for all of that.
I love it. I mean, that's the whole point, right? That's the whole point of sharing our stories. I mean, we do it for us too. It's something that can bring us so much goodness, but it really is powerful to just like, hey, this worked for me. This is my experience, and how that can open worlds for others when they just hear something that clicks.
Yeah. For me, getting on a stage or even talking on my podcast or on social media, I'm probably not saying something that somebody hasn't heard before, but there might be a different season that they're coming into, or I may say it differently. You may resonate with my story a little more than somebody else's story, perhaps, and how I've applied the things that I've learned throughout my life and career and motherhood differently. So I'm probably saying the same things that other people are saying, but hopefully it can be heard a little different. So
amazing. So we are going to be talking about identity and really talking about how having your worth and your value tied up in your roles, things like that, it can be not so great. So I'm hoping that you can share some of your own story of why this conversation is so important to you. Why are you here sharing about it?
Sure. So I have experienced probably 3 big pivotal moments in my life that led me to here. And I didn't realize at the time how all of it would fit together. Of course, we never do until we're sitting with it in our lap. But the first time was when I was a stay-at-home mom. So I gave birth to two boys, and my youngest was going off to kindergarten. And I'm like, well, now what? Like, I'm not chasing around a toddler anymore. My oldest is already, there's 4 years between them. And so he was already on to school, and you can only organize a spice rack so many times. And so I decided I needed to do something for myself. And so I got into what I feel is the gateway to all direct sales and network marketing. I got into Mary Kay because I needed some community. I needed to be around people. Like, I was very much home. My now husband at the time, hauled cars for GM. So he was gone for weeks on end. So it was literally just me after the boys went to school. And so I got into Mary Kay, and it was there that I found my love for empowering women to step into their purpose. And to me, network marketing is a place where, not millionaires are made every day. That wasn't like my plot in life, was to teach somebody how to be a millionaire, but just to get a little something for themselves, and to watch this super tight rosebud all of a sudden bloom into something that they never thought they could be. And so that was kind of the first transition of like, okay, so who am I? Right. And I was a very young mom. And so that was at the age of like 24. And then you just go through life, and you start hitting all of your kids' milestones, and you become enveloped in that whole thing. And I very much was involved in my kids' lives. With their dad gone as much as he was, it was just me. And so I was the one going to all of the things alone, and had to create a sense of community for myself and not completely just lose myself. And I did, like, for a lot of years, I did lose myself in just being their mom, also trying to run a business, but not fully paying attention to all of that. And I was fortunate enough to be able to do that and live that kind of life with them. My oldest son came to me, and he was 19, and said, "Hey mom, I'm going to have a baby." And I'm like, huh, okay. I wasn't quite 40, and my son was telling me I was going to be a grandma, and I had to step back and be like, okay, like, I'm in charge of how this goes. I'm in charge of how this all looks for my pod. And I've been very fortunate that my ex-husband and I are very close. And my new husband and the kids I've accumulated along the way with that, we're all very close. So I'm very much about what my pod looks like. And so I knew that, like, I had to step back and take some time to really kind of navigate how this was going to look. And going from being a hands-on mom to not being front and center in my son's life was the next pivotal moment, where I'm like, well, nobody tells you how to be a mom to an adult. So, like, we get all these amazing books when we're pregnant and we're having kids, and what to expect the toddler years and all of the things, but nobody says, here's what to expect when your child is an adult. And for me, it was like, I want the skinned knee problems. I want the, my homework's not done problems. And now I'm sitting with this, still a baby, having a baby. And it was like, how do I do this? And so it was in that moment that I realized that I had always introduced my role first and then myself. So I grew up in a small town. And so to everybody, I was John Hauser's daughter, Amanda. And then I became Dan's wife, Amanda, and Nick and Nate's mom, Amanda. And I was sitting down, I was creating a blog post about what this all looked like to be a mom to an adult. And now the adult was having a baby, and that baby was born at 24 weeks. My granddaughter was a pound 3 ounces when she was born. So not only was he a new dad, he was a new dad going through massive trauma. And now she's an incredible, sassy 5-year-old. And I'm so thankful for her every single day. She's one of my favorite little humans because I have 2 granddaughters. She melts my heart. And so I sat there and I'm like, holy cow, all of my life, I've never been Amanda first. And Nick was getting ready to get his license and graduating. And even though I had this amazing business, I was still left with, like, what does this look like? Who am I if I'm not filling lunch accounts and running to football games? What does this look like for Amanda? And it was in that moment that the mindset shift happened, that I'm me first. And just that one thing of introducing myself as Amanda, Nick and Nate's mom, does incredible things for your psyche. incredible things. And so I was able to kind of step back a little bit. It was still hard, very, very hard. Lots of years of learning how to navigate all of this, but I was able to give myself some grace and be like, hey, like all those titles and those roles are amazing, but they wouldn't be if it wasn't for me right now. And then the third transition is when I got married 2 years ago. And literally, life as I knew it was completely different. And at that time, I was in my job and had quit doing my coaching at the time. And I'm like, holy cow, like I don't have to like raise children. And my granddaughter and my son lived with me. And now I was not living with them. And like, what did that all look like? And so, three major transitions, and all of those transitions were handled very differently because I learned to grow through them. And each transition I pulled from the one before to use what worked and move forward. So that brings me here to have this conversation because I feel like it is so important because we do raise our kids to do big things and can't hang on to them forever. And we're left holding a bag of what now? And it's scary.
Yeah, I know before we hit record on this, I was expressing to you how excited I am to just kind of hear this conversation from the perspective of someone whose kids are grown, right? And it's not like we have to make sure that we're putting ourselves first in that way of
Right.
like knowing who we are because our kids will eventually leave, but it's something
Right.
that is very real, right?
Yes.
We're out here trying to raise independent kids who
Yeah.
are able to, do life and be adults who are able to live in
Yeah.
the world. And that means that they eventually will not need us in the same way. I mean, believe me, I call my mom often, and I think there's definitely a balance, right? I'm sure you are very involved in their lives, but it looks a lot different. And so we can talk about identity being so important as knowing like we are not just a mom, not just a wife, not just all these things.
Right.
For the fact that like it's important in any situation, but it also that kind of, okay, if you have kids in the home, this is what is very likely coming. It's important to like kind of, snap that in and just know that that's very real. So I've found that sometimes women that I've worked with and, had conversations with, I talk to a lot of moms, they don't even necessarily realize how wrapped up their value and their identity is in their roles. And that's not always necessarily a bad thing, right? We can be really committed to our kids and really involved. But what I foresee is the possibility that they may end up having a similar experience that you did when you realized your kids had grown, or, somewhere along the way, the kids go to kindergarten, whatever it is, right? There are these transitions that happen where our kids don't need us as much because that's the whole point of raising them and teaching them, right?
Yep.
Do you have any advice for moms to kind of like recognize this pattern in ourselves? If it's like, you know what, I'm really happy right now and I'm really happy being my child's mom, but maybe this is something I should start to think about. What patterns can we look for?
Sure. So being a mom was one of my favorite things in this world. And then I got to become a grandma. And I will tell you, hands down, like Grammy is my favorite title, right? And so being a mom enveloped who I was. It wasn't something that I struggled to do. It was just a very natural thing for me to be my boys' mom. Not that there weren't hard days. We were the three, trying to make it in this world. And I wished somebody would have told me early on, like how to prepare for that. And so we always know as moms, the end game is that they're going to graduate and do amazing things in this planet. But we don't really ever sit with it. And so my advice would be, right now school is starting everywhere for us and everybody's posting these amazing pictures. And inevitably, in almost every post, someone says, or a mom says, and I just said it yesterday with my granddaughter starting kindergarten, where did the time go? And it goes by so fast. And when you're in the thick of it, you're like, oh, like I wish they would feed themselves, right? And my life will be so much easier when they can feed themselves. And oh my gosh, I can't wait till they can entertain themselves. And my life will be so much easier but like when it's done, you will look back and think, I just blinked. And so what I would encourage moms to do is when your kids are experiencing those milestones, like they're going to kindergarten, they're going into middle school, they're going into high school, use those as checkpoints for yourself also. Ask yourself, like, Am I feeling fulfilled? We can get so nose to the grindstone on being a mom that we just start going through the motions of things. And so really checking in with yourself, like, am I doing something that fulfills me? It may not be that you need to leave your job or change your job. It may be that you need a career change. Are you doing things that fill your soul? Are you checking in with friends? Like, I know moms who like have no friends because it is all about their kids as friends. And I was very fortunate enough to have my kids as friends. Parents became family to us. And so I was very blessed in that regard to be able to spend time with them and do things with them. And our boys were in football and all of that. Football was a huge part of my life for so very long. And even now, like, as football is starting, there's that pang of like, oh, I'm not rushing my kid off to practice, right? Or I'm not going to sit at a Friday night game. And so, just those important questions, use them as checkpoints. Are you doing the things to take care of yourself? Because you can't pour from an empty cup. And so those milestones become your milestones, and relish in them, but also take a minute and just sit back and be like, okay, where am I at in things? What does this look like? And I applaud, like, I've got some friends of ours that they were so ready to be empty nesters. Like, they had a plan for what the two of them are going to do, and they are running with it. And they are so insanely happy just out there living their life, knowing that their kids are doing amazing things. But that's not the general way things go. And so the other aspect of that is, if you have a spouse, check in with that relationship too. Because I've seen so many times, and my marriage is new, but my husband and I have been together for many years prior. We involve ourselves in conversation about our kids. And so when they're gone, what does that look like with you guys? So are you doing things together? Are you creating date nights now? Everything that you do now is just going to get that much better when the kids are off living their life. And so I really encourage you to just take stock in all of the things at each milestone for your child, because it won't slam you quite as hard in the end. I wish I would have done that more. I'm thankful that I had a little bit of a introduction to that when Nathan told me that he was having a baby and Nick wasn't quite gone yet. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess still have a few years before he flies the coop. So yeah, just use those as checkpoints and see how you're doing.
What I love about that is we can kind of hold, and this is so important in anything in life, we can hold the like commitment and excitement for what our kids are doing and the role that we get to have in their lives and all of that with checking in with ourselves. It's not about getting it perfect. It's not about, somehow stripping ourselves from the title of mother. That's not at all the goal.
Right.
It's just saying, hey, am I doing what I need to be doing? And if I'm not, okay, let's work on it. And it's not like I have to get it perfect. I mean, our kids are growing up for a while. We have a lot of time to figure it out, but I love just kind of setting those really obvious check marks, because we all know in the kind of, it's chaotic having kids, whether you have things completely organized and set up or not. I mean, I just getting to this conversation this morning, I had to drop my kid off at kindergarten, and like, even just those things, the getting your kids where they need to go is a lot. And so it's like adding one more thing of like, oh, checking in with myself. What? But when you have those kind of, okay, they have a milestone and I get to celebrate that with them. And then also really check in. And I love that tip there too, about checking in with your partner and your relationship, because I think that is as well, there's a lot going on and our kids do take up a lot of space in our minds, regardless of, how well we're doing at not letting it be all consuming. It is fairly all consuming. And so just really being intentional about that and not putting too much pressure on yourself to have it perfect.
Right. And it's that conversation for my husband and I now has come up so many times where we'll go out to dinner and we'll see young-ish couples, our age or whatever, not talking. Like, they're sitting at the table and they're on their phones. Not that my husband and I don't have those moments where it's like, you both just need silence, right? Like, he needs to do his thing, I need to do my thing and whatever. But you can tell that there's this drop in connection. I mean, just by reading body language. And so one of the things that we've talked about is like, that never can be us. Like, that can never be who we are. And we're actually getting ready to head out tomorrow to go on a cruise to Alaska. So we're going to be gone for 9 days and like not have very much communication with any of our children. And so it's like, oh, we've got the things that we know we need to like, we're making some very big plans. And so things that we want to discuss and whatever, but it's like, well, this is going to be the first time where we're just like completely disconnected from the outside world. And so it'll be really interesting to see how that goes as far as, I mean, we're in the middle of the ocean together. So it'll be fine. It'll be
It'll be
great.
great. It has to be, right? Yeah. I mean, it's so real. I have a 5 and a 2.5-year-old, and it really is. It's like, if you're not being intentional about those things, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. It's not going to be the priority if you don't make it the priority. So
Right.
really important reminder there.
Right.
I'm wondering if there's anything like specific that has helped you on this journey to kind of, in a sense, find yourself as an individual, as Amanda, and what tips you maybe have for others who are in a similar phase, like of actual methods or ways that they can kind of get back to themselves.
Absolutely. So when I got married 2 years ago, I moved out of the house that I raised my kids in. And so we were at that house for almost 20 years. And my oldest came into me and he said, I don't understand why you're upset. Why are you crying? And I'm like, I'm excited about this new life that's coming up for me, but this is all I've known for 20 years in this house. You guys are all I've known for, 22 years at the time. So it was a weird space to be in because I was so excited to be moving in with my husband for the first time in our relationship and blending our families, but from different houses. And there was nothing our marriage didn't touch, right? So it had a ripple effect because he had 2 children living at home and they flew the coop to find their ways. My ex-husband ended up moving an hour and a half from us back to the town he grew up in, and with it went our family dog. I mean, it was just like there was nothing our marriage didn't change for a lot of people. And then we did something completely crazy. And because the market was so good at the time, we sold his house and it was a smaller house. We wanted a fresh start together. So we moved into our amazing fifth wheel for the summer and bougie camped at an amazing park just north of town here. And he sat in my camper, and I love our camper. It's amazing. It's truly a house on wheels. And I sat there and I had such anxiety and the chest pressure was intense and my depression started to take over. And this life that I thought was going to be so amazing was heavy. And then because we couldn't find land and we couldn't find a house that we were going to buy, we were left. I mean, winter, I live in southern Wisconsin, so winter is not a good place to be in a camper in the winter. So we had to find a place to live. And so there was all of that anxiety. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, you don't have to go down this road. You've got tools. So 10 years ago, my father passed away at 55. And it was sudden, and he was my rock. He was the dad that every girl dreamed of, right? And so all of my family went on some form of antidepressants. And I had been on an antidepressant or two prior to that. And I didn't want to feel that way. Like I knew I needed to feel through it all. And so I started researching ways to kind of holistically get through this. I knew meditation, I knew journaling, but I needed something a little more. And so EFT or tapping came into my peripheral. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'm going to try this. And so I became the emotion coach because I was helping women through trauma, and losing my dad the way I did was insanely traumatic. And I would wake up at night and I would feel like I couldn't take one more breath, or I was crying so hard I couldn't breathe through it. And grief resides in our lungs. And I know from all of my studying when I started diving into it that our body traps emotions. And when we trap an emotion and we don't release it, that part of our body becomes very vulnerable to injury or disease. And so it's like, okay, so I know all of these parts and I got to put them together. So I used tapping for a lot of years to help me get through the hard parts. And then when I was sitting in my camper and I've been going through this anxiety and I felt the chest pressure, I kept thinking like, maybe this is unresolved grief from my dad, right? And so I did tapping, and tapping is a very simple technique that you can do at home. I worked with people because I tried to nudge them past their comfort zone a little bit. Our brains are designed to keep us safe, right? And so if we're tapping, we can definitely get deep enough to clear trauma or to clear blocks or to get ourselves moving forward. But sometimes it is so deep that we do need somebody to sit and just hold our hand through it. And so really what it is like on the side of your hand, you're going to do a setup statement that you're going to repeat 3 times. And so for me, when I was going through that, it was, even though I'm feeling all of this anxiety about my new life, I deeply love and accept myself. And sometimes those words are really hard to say, but it's so important to say and acknowledge that no matter where you are, no matter what is happening, you do love and accept yourself. And just saying those words just helps that energy start to calm. And sometimes people are like, I cannot say that. It is not the truth for me. Then start somewhere. I love and accept myself. Maybe you don't deeply love and accept yourself, or maybe I accept the situation. Just start somewhere. And so after you do the setup statement 3 times, you just start tapping through the points. And I can share with you the points also. It's your eyebrow point, the side of your eye, under your nose, under your chin, the collarbone, under your arm, and the top of your head. You look like a monkey when you're doing it. But the crazy thing about tapping is I feel like in the holistic world, there's sometimes a level of believability that needs to happen. You don't even have to believe that tapping works for it to actually work for you. I did surrogate tapping for my granddaughter when she was in the hospital. My second granddaughter has had a ton of digestive issues and she was hospitalized. So I did some tapping for her just for strength and healing. But for me, it was like I was constantly tapping on this grief of whatever was happening. And you can feel the shift. You start to yawn. And from where it was at a level 10 down to a level 2, it was just this amazing gift. And journaling through those things of like, okay, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm doing, and whatever. So I thought that I had come over the hump. And I quit my job in April and had been coming off of like just this really kind of scary, deep depression. And it was, wintertime here in Wisconsin is very gloomy. I also developed an allergy to the cold when my dad passed away. So I can't even really be out in the elements in the winter. And so I'm like, what is all of this about? Like, what is going on? And so my husband and I were driving by my old house and I had come across something with unresolved grief. And we drove by my old house and I just burst into tears. And I'm like, well, that's it. It's my old life. And so tapping is something I use all of the time. And it doesn't make you forget the thing. It just helps you release the emotional charge to it. And so what I love about it is that I can sit up in the middle of the night with a panic attack out of nowhere and do just some tapping. And if I am like really stressed out and I don't feel like I can go through all the points, I'll just sit right on my collarbone and I'll take deep cleansing breaths. And I'll just be like, okay, I got this. I got this. But when it came to like making the decision to quit my job and working through all of that, tapping was really pivotal in all of that because I was able to get out of my own way, if you will. I am a self-proclaimed person that just has always had worth issues. And so it was able to help me create worth in myself. And people will say, well, like, you can't say the negative, right? That will come true, but you can't clean a room with a blindfold on, right? And so I go in and I acknowledge those things. Like, I am so scared about what this next step is. I have no idea what this next step is. And I'm tapping through the points. And the best way that I can say to like talk it through is to like act like you're picking up the phone and calling your best friend. Like, hey, best friend, I have no clue what this looks like for me. I'm terrified. This has been my life for so long. I don't know what I'm going to do. And even if it's just literally saying over and over that you're scared, you are processing through those emotions. And when you feel like you've calmed it down enough, then you can tap in the positive stuff. I am safe. I do have worth beyond what I am as a mom. I am going to do amazing things. And then from there, I would journal and I would journal whatever came up for me. And it was in my journaling because I had tried quitting my job for 2 years and they didn't want me to quit, which was fun in the moment. But it was like at the very beginning of it, I'm like, I don't even know what I'm going to quit to do. Like I quit my coaching practice. I didn't even know what that was, but through my tapping and through my journaling and meditation, I was able to pull out from those pages like, oh, being a full-time speaker is what I actually need to be doing in this world. Like motivating women to get through these challenges is what I need to be doing in this world right now. And so it was an amazing gift. I am a huge proponent of teaching tapping. I think that everybody needs to know it. My dad died of a heart attack. They aged his heart at 103 years old due to stress. And I truly believe if he would have had access to or known about this, he may still be here today. So it's a beautiful gift. And anybody that gets within 3 feet of me, I talk about it. It's really helped me move through some major transition and do it with grace.
I love it. I so appreciate you sharing that with us. This is a tool that we haven't talked about on the Worthy Mother podcast. And we talk a lot about the way that it's all connected, right? The emotions and the physical manifestation of what happens in our body when we feel stress and all of these things. And it's so important to have these different tools to be able to kind of deal with the different parts of grief, of stress, of overwhelm, because I mean, it does have an impact. It has a massive impact. It's all connected. We can't not acknowledge that. And so I really appreciate that. Do you have any resources for anyone who wants to learn about tapping?
So I dove headfirst into Nick Ortner's website, The Tapping Solution. He's got some amazing books. He has a podcast. I actually still have his app on my phone. And I love just going to it for somebody else's voice instead of my own. I talk about it on my podcast. I kind of backed off talking about it on social media, but that's going to be gearing up a little bit more just because it is that time of year where moms are delivering their kids to college. They need some help through that whole thing. So yeah, the tapping solutions where I started and was able to get enough from that to be able to process through the grief of losing my dad. And I later on became a certified practitioner, but he's got a ton of free resources out there. So definitely the tapping solution is my number one recommendation.
Amazing. So I feel like I've learned so much from this conversation and your story. There's so many pieces of it. You know, we all have these really rich stories of our lives. And it's so cool when you get to listen to someone who's really done a lot of that reflection and thinking through and, you know, overcoming through the tools that you've learned and really putting the effort into that to be able to then reflect that back to us and like share your path, your journey with us, because there is so much to learn and so much like, you know what, that does sound like something that I can relate to or I could use in my own life. It's really wonderful. I'm wondering if there's anything, as someone who is, you know, a quote empty nester and is in that part of your life. I know you've talked about this some, but is there any advice that you would give moms who are in the thick of it? Just anything that comes up for that?
My number one thing is to just breathe. Breathe through it because you're very much in your emotions about kids doing what you raised them to do. And so I've often, like, a friend of mine had said to me, like, are you breathing? Yes, I'm breathing. Like, I'm alive, right? But when you actually stop and I put reminders in my phone to just breathe, you don't realize how often you're holding your breath. And getting that breath into our body is so important. My sister-in-law and my brother are just experiencing this for the first time within the last couple of weeks here. And my sister-in-law has been struggling. It's her only child. It's my brother's stepchild. He called me and he's like, I don't know how to help her. I have no idea how to help her. Like, I'm like, this is the deal. Like, let her feel all of the emotions. And so don't try to suppress it. Don't try to be like, oh, like, I'm not allowed to feel this way. Give yourself some grace. Give yourself some time. You're in also this very weird transition where you're super excited for your child, but you want them here with you, right? And I will tell you that my kids, I'm still a mom. Like I'm always going to be a mom, and it totally looks different, but I get to help them through my experiences now. And I feel like as a mom, you're always doing that. But when they hit adulthood and they're calling you with big kid problems, you're like, okay, like I feel like I can handle this with them a little bit better, right? And so just that reminder that you raised them to do what they were meant to do. They're doing the things, they're becoming productive members of society, they're having families. When my son got married last year, the one that has my granddaughter, it was a hard transition because it's like, well, hey, like now you're my granddaughter's stepmom and I was helping him, you know what I mean? And so it's just that reminder of like, no, 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 like he's taking a wife for himself and he's building a family and I'm so proud of my all of my kids and they're all living very different lives. We've got one who is a full-time RVer and travels the country and they are, working along the way and whatever. And so I mean everybody's doing very different things. And it doesn't mean you're not going to worry about them. It doesn't mean that when they come back to your house, they're not going to try to stretch their boundaries because like they've been on their own for a little bit. That was like one of our things when my son came back from college and he's never ruffled feathers. He's never been like a rule breaker or anything, but I'm like, I mean, this is our house. Like there are rules. And I didn't really have to like say all of that, but I had to say it because I'm his mom, right? Like you're still my kid and you're now in my house, right? But it'll be a weird kind of push and pull thing for a while because they're an adult, but they still need you. And so you can just rest assured to sit back and be like, okay, like this is a good part of my life. And I am excited to live this part of my life. For me, I'm a young empty nester. I'll be 44 next month.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, okay, so like I've got all of my life like to figure out I feel like my adult life has all been about my kids. And so yeah, the advice that I gave my sister-in-law was just to feel through all of the things, give yourself some grace. It'll get easier as time goes on. I know that's such a cliche thing to say, but they have their own business and stuff, but it's very much a seasonal thing. So winter is going to be a little bit more interesting for her. And yeah, just breathe through it. Like, don't forget to breathe and find some things that you love to do, even if it's a hobby. Like, I've got a friend of mine who loves to make cards and scrapbook and things. And so she's super excited about diving more into that and all the things. But one of the things that helped me, especially like with fall, because I feel like fall is typically been like the hardest time for me because I'm always that mom that like I had all of the things in a row, right? Like I had new school supplies and everything was just fresh organized. And so I still do that for myself, like get my house ready for like the cozy season, I call it. And so it just still gives me that sense of like, oh, okay, like kids are starting school again. And even though that doesn't really affect me, I mean, it did this year because I had my granddaughter a lot this summer, but kids are starting school again. And so I'm going to just kind of freshen my house up for fall. That was a really amazing thing for me to kind of dive into in the last couple of years. So just find what works for you. And it's okay to pivot that too. Like try different things. Like it's not going to be a perfect science. And if you don't like it, hey, you're in a position to be able to change it. So it's exciting.
Okay, I love what you just said. There's bringing something kind of forward for me of like, we can do these things for ourselves. I mean, even thinking about the holidays, because I know for a lot of families that can be a hard piece, whether it's your family of origin or your kids or whatever it is, that's something that is challenging for a lot of families. But knowing that like, as the mom, even when your kids are little, you can do the things for yourself, the things that light you up and make you happy. If it makes you so happy to get your house cozy and, decorated for the holidays or whatever it is, like you can do that for you. And that's a beautiful thing. And that can start before your kids are out of the home.
Yeah.
What a powerful reminder.
Teaching your children to do the same things, right? And so they're learning all of those things. And it's crazy because my ex-husband has his CDL, obviously. And one thing that he told all three of the boys was it's a hard life. I mean, he provided in a very big way, but it was a very hard life. He sacrificed, we sacrificed. It was all the things. But both of my kids are entrepreneurial driven because of what they watched me do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy how much I'm watching my adult kids pull from what they learned when they were kids. And like my kids would always, we had our Saturday morning routine. We would always like clean the house on Saturday mornings. Everybody had their jobs, right? I was the mom whose kids were emptying the dishwasher at a very young age. My oldest was taller, so he got the top half of glasses and plates and stuff. My youngest was little and he did the bottom half. And still, like right as I was moving out, even though they were older, it still worked that way. Like it just always worked that way. And so I would always get just crap from my kids because they're like, we have the cleanest house. Like nobody else's moms make them do this. Well, their houses and their spaces are clean. It just, they do learn from what we do. So if we are
They
taking that
do.
time for ourselves, they are going to learn to do the same. And that's a really incredible gift to give them.
Absolutely. It is really a beautiful thing. It's a generational
Mhm.
impact that you're
Yes.
making,
Yes, for sure.
multi-generational.
Yeah.
Okay, so something that I love kind of wrapping these conversations up with is a question about self-care, because self-care is something that can be kind of eye-rolly
Hmm.
sometimes when it's brought up, but it also, I believe, is like the most important thing we can do for
Yeah.
ourselves is care for ourselves, pour into ourselves.
Hmm.
So I just like normalizing that conversation. And I am wondering if there's anything that you do to take care of yourself. And if you have any tips for moms to make sure they're taking care of themselves. I know we've gotten into some of that in the
Yeah.
episode, of course, but
Yeah. I think that this part of the conversation I love because there has been typically in the past such a stigma around, it's selfish to put yourself first and all of those things. And so I love that the conversation is turning towards this is something we need to do to be the best version of ourselves because my gosh, if we're not the best version of ourselves, how are we going to teach our children to be the best version of themselves? And so some of the things that I've really gotten good at are especially my night routine. And my night routine is like probably a little more bougie than it needs to be, but I was able to create the time to do it. So we have a sauna. And so I go and I work out or just walk on the treadmill. Right now we're walk outside, come home. I sit in the sauna, get dinner going. And then I, take this most luxurious shower and I write my thankful list every night, things that I'm thankful for that came up throughout the day, and even do things that haven't maybe happened yet. And so I am creating affirmations in that way and have a cup of tea and get cozy and read. I love to read empowerment books during the day, but it gets my brain really working. And so at night, I allow myself to just read a mindless novel and develop myself in that. So creating routines has been really big for me, especially that night routine. I'm still working on what my morning routine looks like now that my granddaughter's back to school. And really just, I'm a huge proponent of Sunday resets. I love Sunday resets. I love getting up and doing a slow morning on Sunday and getting my house ready for the week and any meal prepping done. And then we have just a really relaxing afternoon and go do whatever, we would like to do. And then Sunday nights, we typically go share nachos by the water or, something like that, where we've created a really amazing start to our week. And so just doing the things that I know are filling me and my soul, because everybody in my family will tell you if I do not do a Sunday reset, I am hell on wheels come Monday morning because it's like I feel so discombobulated and out there. But that Sunday reset for me has been huge to just get into this new life and what it looks like. And yeah, creating routines has been huge in my self care and allowing myself to be able to not feel the guilt around that. Like when my kids were growing up, I loved taking baths, love it. And when they were old enough where I could shut the door and be like, unless the house is burning, do not bother me. It was my time to just recoup and know that I needed that space. And they were good with it. I mean, they learned mom's routine that way. So even when they were growing up, I had some sort of self care routine because as a basically single mom, it was important for me to re energize myself. So self care is never a bad thing. Never a bad thing. Give yourself
never
some
a bad
grace.
thing.
Do the self care. So I ran across somebody on TikTok the other day. She does a lavender shower every night.
Mm.
So she gets the Dr. Teal's lavender body wash and the scrub and whatever, and like takes this amazing shower every night before bed. So I'll be checking that out after my vacation.
I could
Maybe
see that
add
being
that to the
really
list.
nice. Like
Right?
steamy lavender. That's a good way to get you
Yes.
to zonk
Yes.
out.
Yes, 100%. So yeah, no, I'm definitely excited about trying that when I get home. But yeah, it's that night routine. I love my night routine. Like it's become a really great part of my week. So
No, I love that. That is an awesome little tidbit and something that, I mean, we can all take a look at what we do before
yeah.
bed and kind of think about how that might be something in our own lives. Like, could I create a routine, even if it's something that's small.
Yeah.
Lavender shower sounds nice.
It's so amazing. I just can't even. And that's the thing. Like, while you are in the thick of raising kids, just do one thing. One thing that you know every single night is going to be the same regardless. And then when you open the doors of being an empty nester and you've got your whole evening and you're not cooking for 7,000 people, like the sky's the limit on what you can do. Truly the limit.
I love it. Amanda, this has been such an awesome conversation. I'm so just excited for everything that you shared with us and that we get to share this conversation with everybody on the podcast. I'm hoping you can tell us where listeners can find you and if there's just anything they should keep an eye out for.
Sure. So I do have my podcast, Becoming Amanda, and it's on all of the iTunes, Spotify's, that kind of thing. You can find me on social media, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook under Becoming Amanda Podcast. I actually am launching a new TikTok called I Am Amanda First. And so my handle on TikTok currently is Becoming Amanda Podcast, but I'm also going to be kind of doing that a little bit to gear towards more empty nester stuff. I'm also releasing a course here within the next few weeks on how to navigate empty nester syndrome and this time of the year when it seems to be more difficult than others. So that'll be coming out. But yeah, just hit me up on the socials. Like, we have a lot of fun over there. And I have a group on Facebook called Becoming You. And so that is all about, we really are just kind of getting started in that group. I just opened it up to really start having the conversation of becoming who we are meant to be, because I truly believe we all have some purpose for being here. And so exploring what that looks like, even if I think people will get around their brains and think, well, I got to change my job. No, that's not what that means. So if you're in a career that you absolutely love, my gosh, stay there, because how lucky are you to be able to have that? But yeah, it's been kind of a fun conversation to have with others and see where they're at with things. So yeah, social media and my podcast right now is where I'm hanging out.
So good. And we will link all of that in the show notes so that it's nice and easy to find if you want to check any of it out. Oh, I love this. This is so good. I'm so appreciative again of you just coming and sharing your story and sharing all this wonderful advice with us. It's something that I think no matter where you are in your motherhood journey, whether your kids are grown or you have little tiny ones at home, this is important. This is really important. We can never pour into ourselves too much. So thank you so much.
100%. Thank you for having me. It's been so much fun. I really appreciate it. I'm excited.
Yes. And thank you for tuning in. I hope that you have found some good value in this conversation and maybe it sparked something for you to kind of try checking in with yourself regularly and making sure you're doing enough for you in the day-to-day. We are going to end it there. And I just want to leave you with this. You are worthy, Mama.